Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. I want to make a kind of a quick video hopefully here this morning, and may get a second one out this afternoon on something different. But today I want to talk once again about this shipping problem that we have, where ships are just kind of stacking to the ceiling and not getting unloaded, and actually show you some real-time footage, well, not footage, but real-time screenshots of what these ships look like at different ports. You can look it up too, and I'll explain that here in a little bit. So we'll get to that if you just stick with me on the show and kind of show you what's going on out there. Before I get started, I want to say, you know, if you're a coffee drinker, all this stuff of shortages and stuff, you should probably get you some coffee. And if you order online, I would suggest looking at Expedition Joe Coffee. It's down in the description. There's a link down there, and you can order through that link. And if you use the promo code PREPARE10, you will get 10% off. It's for my listeners here. You can get 10% off your order. They're a small batch producer, meaning they don't produce, massive quantities, and then the quality is a little off. They produce very high quality stuff. You can be rest assured that your money is going to a company that's not giving money or support to some of these leftist agendas or just stabbing patriots in the back. This is very much a patriot and veteran-owned company. And I know the owner personally, talked to him several times. He's a really good guy, and they produce an amazing quality. It's the coffee that we drink here every day. And so Expedition Joe Coffee, like I said, a description down in the description below, there's a link that you can go to. So this shipping problem, it's not really a shortage. It seems to be a shortage of workers to unload the ships, and not really a shortage of supplies. It just appears that there's a lot of ships stacked everywhere out in the ocean, anchored. And we've talked about this many times before. In fact, just a week or two ago, I was talking about how there were around 140 or so ships out on Long Beach or off the Long Beach coast there in California, where the big port there is in LA. Well, this is a problem that's happening everywhere. This is not just one central location there in LA that they're having problems. It's happening everywhere. And I want to be clear, I do believe that this is being orchestrated. I believe that this is being done on purpose. I cannot think of a real logical reason of why this just is happening. This is not something that's ever happened before. Back in March or so, when I started talking about this, there were articles in the news where they had interviewed people that are in charge of logistics of shipping, and they were saying then that this has never happened, that it's unusual for just one or two ships to be anchored out waiting to unload. So having multiple ships is a rarity. It just doesn't happen. And we're seeing this build up more and more and more. We're starting to hear now in mainstream news warnings to people to purchase your Christmas gifts early because we're running out. I'm getting videos and pictures from you, the listeners, almost on a daily basis of your local stores just having empty shelves, not just food, but just about everything. Stories of where you've ordered a couch and it's taking 9 months just to get a couch or a washing machine or a refrigerator. There's a video I saw this morning of a guy who went to his local Best Buy and the electronics store. You're probably familiar with that one. And there were bare shelves everywhere, and the things that they were in short supply of it. Simple things, major electronics, anything. There wasn't a lot of stuff on the shelves. This is becoming a problem, and I believe it is orchestrated because if it was a genuine problem that was out of their control, you would think they would be trying to do something to rectify this problem. We're hearing up in New York that they're saying that they're going to bring in the National Guard to replace all these nurses that are being fired because they're not getting this. The National Guard has been used many times in this nation's history to rebuild infrastructure, to help with logistics, all sorts of things the National Guard is capable of doing. And if it's truly a problem of shortage of workers that they can't control, then why not bring in the National Guard to some of these ports, even on a temporary basis, and get things moving? I hear often in emails and comments from you folks Some of you work in the trucking industry, and I heard from one guy the other day that he said that he actually goes to some of these ports to get loads and to take them wherever he has to take them. And he said he has to set for hours, 6-8 hours, and nothing is going on. I've heard from several of you that say that they're like ghost towns. You go to these ports that used to be busy, and trucks, it was just like almost like a train of trucks constantly moving in and out, in and out, in and out, loading, quickly loading, moving on to the next one. And now that's not happening. They're just almost sitting like they're empty, not empty of containers, but empty of people, that nothing's happening at these ports. So I do believe that this is an orchestrated problem, and I believe it's something that we need to be preparing for. I've said that many, many times, and I take that seriously. What I'm going to show you are some screenshot videos of an app that you can download yourself, Marine Tracker app. This is one of the apps that they use in the industry to track different ships, maritime. The free version will show you anything pretty much that you want to see that's necessary. You can pay, and that's usually where the professionals pay, and they can figure out what each individual ship is, who owns it, the size, the weight, what's on it, all that kind of stuff. But to just view ships on our oceans and waterways, you can do that for free. And so what I'm going to show you, I'm going to set this up. There's different settings in the app. I have it set that it's only showing cargo container ships. Now, it doesn't say what necessarily size. Some of these are the big, huge behemoths, and some of them may be small ones. Some of them may be barges, like that would be on the Mississippi River. But nevertheless, they are cargo container ships. When you see them in the square block, that means that they are either moored to where they would be getting unloaded, or that they are anchored waiting to unload. If you see a green arrow, that means that they're in motion, that they're moving, so that you can kind of tell. Now, I can't tell exactly which ones are being unloaded and ones that are anchored, but I believe just basic logic tells us that if they're out in the ocean, or if you see a little square block where there is not an area where they would unload, then most likely that thing is just sitting, waiting to unload. If it's unloaded, it would probably be in motion. If it's sitting there and it's not at a dock to be unloaded, then it's probably waiting to unload. Now, so I'm going to show you. Now, this is very unprofessional. I apologize. Some of it's a little jittery because I'm still getting the hang of doing this. But let's first go to LA. This is the one that's been talked about a lot. As you start to zoom in, you can see that there are a lot of ships setting out in the ocean. They're setting out waiting. They're not anywhere near a dock. You can zoom into the docks, and you can certainly see ships that are setting at the docks. Most likely those are the ones that are being unloaded. But you can certainly see a lot of ships that are out in the ocean, or not anywhere near a dock, that they're just sitting there. The square blocks means that they're either moored at the docks or they're anchored, just waiting. And so we can see a lot of them there. I haven't counted them up, but the point is that you can see a lot. Now, let's go to other ports, because, there's other ports in the United States. Go up to San Francisco. Same thing. Now, a lot of these other ports, they're not nearly as big as LA, so there's not going to be as many. LA is the big one. These others are a little bit smaller, so of course you're not going to see nearly as much. But you can certainly see that there are ships setting out in LA, or out in San Francisco. If you go up to Vancouver, Seattle area, same thing. You can see ships just sitting there. They're just sitting there waiting to unload. Go down to Houston, Texas. Same thing. You can certainly see that there are ships in the docking areas. Those are most likely being unloaded, but out in the open ocean or away from those docks, you can see ships that are anchored, waiting to unload. Now, I want to remind you, again, that this is highly unusual. Never has happened. It's unusual even for 1 or 2 ships to be sitting, waiting to unload. Just sitting, not in motion or anything. And this amount of them is showing that there's definitely a backlog. They can't, all these ships that are sitting there, even if the docks were open and clear, not all of them could get in and unload. Let's go over to Louisiana, some video here. Now with Louisiana, it's a little bit different. They have to go up into the Mississippi River. I'm unsure if all of these are ocean ships. Some of these may be barges. but it is pretty obvious because of where they're located all along the Mississippi that they are not being unloaded, because those are not places where they would unload. That's not the docks. They're just setting all along the Mississippi, waiting their turn to get up there to unload. So there's a lot there in New Orleans. If you go over to Georgia, Savannah ports, same thing. You can certainly see where there are ones that are being docked, that are probably in the process of being unloaded. And then there's ones out in the ocean. Now I want to remind you that this is real-time footage, not necessarily real-time as I'm making this, but I recorded these at around 9 o'clock this morning. So as of 9 a.m., these are real-time images being put out. And yes, you can click on each one of those squares. If it'll show you very limited information unless you pay a service so that you can see detailed information of what that ship is. So that's Savannah. Let's go up to Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach, same way. You can see ships that are being unloaded in the docks, and you can see ships that are anchored in different places that are just waiting to unload. This is a problem. So we're seeing that it's not just in one place in the United States, it's everywhere. This is happening everywhere. This is causing, it's kind of like a train and someone's thrown the brakes on and that thing is just grinding to a halt. You all know how a train works. You know, it takes quite a distance to stop a train. And so our entire shipping and logistics system is a big, huge train that's been in motion for decades. And it's like someone has hit the brakes and it's slowing down and it's getting worse. It hasn't stopped yet because it's a really big system and it takes a good distance of time to stop it, but it is being grinded to a halt. Now, I want to show you something else. I want to show you over in China. Now, I'm gonna say this. I don't have any information of what would be considered a normal view of the Chinese ports. You know, I've told you several times about how they say that it's unusual here to have ships backed up. China's port is much, much bigger. A lot of ships coming in and out of there. So I would assume it's much more likely to see at least a few ships anchored waiting to load or unload. But I doubt that it would be quite this much. This is Shanghai and some of the ports around there, and I believe we're looking at the largest ports in China. We're going to zoom into these. This makes what we've seen in the United States, it looks like nothing compared to this. We're seeing what looks to be hundreds and hundreds of ships throughout that whole Bay Area of ships that are anchored. These, again, are just cargo ships. They're not shipping, or they're not fishing vessels. These aren't any other type of maritime vessels. These are only cargo container ships. And as we go all up and down the coast, there around Shanghai, where the big ports are, we're seeing hundreds of ships that are just sitting there. Some of the news reports are saying that China is partially orchestrating this because they're not releasing stuff. They're not releasing cargo containers. They're hoarding them. I don't know the full story of this, but I can tell you, at least just from critical thinking skills here, that this is probably not normal. We certainly know it's not normal in the United States, and then we go over here and we look at China, and there are hundreds and hundreds of ships just sitting everywhere. All out in the ocean, out in that Bay Area, that are either waiting to unload probably empty containers, maybe some have, full containers, but are most likely waiting to be reloaded with full containers to ship back to the United States. I believe this is an orchestrated effort. I don't believe it's just the United States government doing it. I don't believe it's just Chinese CCP doing this. I believe this is all part of this great reset. Again, I've said it many times. Global control, global governance cannot happen if individual states, if individual governments are strong economically, politically. They can't. It can't happen. No individual country is going to hand over their sovereignty to a global union, global governance, new world order, whatever it is, if that individual state is strong and healthy, they have no reason to do that. There's no incentive to join and hand over your sovereignty and rights to some type of global entity if that individual state is strong and healthy. So what we're seeing with this Great Reset in many areas is bringing it down, bringing all these countries down to their knees. And yes, I get it that the CCP is probably helping orchestrate this, but I believe they're just as much part of this as the United States. And we're seeing a lot of this happen. So folks, again, you need to take it seriously. I understand none of us, or at least most of us watching this channel, aren't wealthy. We don't have the ability to go out and spend thousands of dollars stocking up on things. And that's not necessarily the only answer. The answer is getting yourselves mentally prepared. This isn't the end. This isn't, the sky is falling. This isn't we're all going to die and we're all going to perish. We've got to be mentally prepared for this, psychologically prepared for this, and realize that we're going to have to kind of rethink things because our old way of living is rapidly dying. It doesn't really exist anymore. And so we can survive this. We can prevail. We just have to keep our wits about us. All right, folks. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.